Hey, how's it going, everybody? So, I wanted to have a conversation about something that I think a lot of people have expressed their frustrations with. But in all reality, I think a lot of people have been missing the mark on this. It is okay. It happens to the best of us, not me, but you know what I mean? I'm joking. But seriously though, a lot of people, and I'm going to start with this trailer right here, have been saying that Wuthering Waves changed. It's not what it used to be. It's no longer the game that I was hoping it would be, right? Okay, let's look at the CG trailer they showed Daybreak when the game was first announced, all right? This was the expectation people had.
Their world shattered.
You saw
without so much as a sign.
Yang running away, right? You see her running away. The world is very muted. Looks kind of like, you know, devoid of life, right? And it had those kind of Death Stranding vibes. Whatever's going on, we don't know, but it looks terrible. Looks like she's running away from the end of the world. Things are, you know, looks like all matter is just being like disintegrated, essentially. Shifted, destroyed, changed. There's the feeling of despair happening right now. This is what people were used to, you know? People were like, oh yeah, we're about to get this story where it's just full of pain, anguish, suffering, and yeah. That was the general sentiment. And I understand that because it makes sense after looking at something like this, right? Like this, like kind of like the horror. You see the etheric sea in the sky, this horror first-person view.
What is dead?
And then you have that, right? And then the trailer ends, right? She's going crazy. Well, not crazy, but she's clearly in anguish.
Which part of you?
And then she looks at this. And this part is the part that was really like Death Stranding. That reminded us of that original Death Stranding trailer when it came out.
Untouched by all this pain.
You know? Of, you know, oh boy on the beach. He looks up, he sees these like creatures in the background. And so, yeah, this was the thought we had. Now, a lot of people are asking the understandable question, right? Understandable. How do we get from this to this? Like, how is that supposed to work? Where's the logic here? I thought this was supposed to be like scary. I didn't know I was going into like some lighthearted JRPG sort of thing. And make it make sense. Like Houseway, like, you know, where's this coming from? This looks totally different. It's very bright. You know, you got your rainbows in the background. You know, friendship is magic. Gummy, you know, goody goody gumdrops and sunshine. This is the thought. And so even this place, which is kind of dark, still has a lot of colors in it. This place is like, okay, I can sort of see like a little bit more, you know, not happy vibes coming from this place. I'm not really that scared to be here. In fact, I'd probably like to come here for vacation or something. So it's not really invoking thoughts of like, oh, this is bad. Okay, the music is different, looks kind of mysterious. I can get with it. This is what I came here to see, right? Like this right here, this is what I was expecting when, you know, that was coming. Yep, this is what I was looking for. But, you know, then you play the game and this place, you know, it's just like, okay, yeah, like, I guess, right? So you have that thought process and you're doing that, you see this, and you're just like, you know, overall, this just feels a little bit too bright. It doesn't really feel like the post-apocalyptic game that I was expecting, right? Like, where's the post-apocalyptic game that I was promised? This ain't it, Chief. So, this is where I have to encourage you all to think a little bit differently about this. The first thing I would like to encourage you all to, you know, take into account. That word, post-apocalyptic, right? It's called post-apocalyptic, not apocalyptic. Post-apocalyptic, meaning after apocalypse. it makes sense that in a world where there's an apocalypse that happened, like, people don't just, like, you know, rest on their laurels and just like, oh, well, I guess we're just gonna live in this terrible place. No, they fight. And they try to rebuild civilization. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the rebuilding of civilization, right? Now, I understand you might say, well, yeah, but, you know, they didn't show, even if that is the case, what they showed us looked originally like it was still in that struggle state, right? Yeah, they could be rebuilding, but I didn't know we would be like, you know, centuries up to like thousands of years after the apocalypse happened. I thought we were gonna be like, okay, maybe like a couple years, maybe 50 to 100 years, and they're still struggling, right? Where are those themes? I would like to encourage you all to now think about where we are. We are in Reena, okay? This is Reena, and the whole theme behind this place is Carnival. The reality is, the Carnival, the whole, like, you know, the mask motif, right? It's intentional. Raguna, if we were to take Reena as the whole thing, let's just call the entirety of this nation of Reena a Carnival. The theme of the Carnival here is that there's a mask. Raguna is the mask of Reena. It's the thing that makes it look like everything is all rainbows and sunshine. Because the thing is, when you take off that mask, okay? When you take off the mask, that's where the truth comes. So when somebody's playing the game for the first time, they're like, oh yeah, this place looks really cool. You know, like, oh yeah, it's all bright and vibrant and so forth and so on. Now, to the credit of the argument, yes, the developers did increase the saturation of some of the colors to make it a little bit more vibrant. Yes, they did. Even in some of the places that are a little bit dark, the tones aren't muted. They are a bit more saturated. Fair. But generally speaking, this place, Raguna in particular, is like a mask for the Carnival that shows a pretty picture with a very dark thing that it's actually hiding. What is the dark thing that it's hiding, you might ask? Well, sacrificing people to the waves, i.e., as I mentioned in one of my lore videos, the Threnodian. Be sure to check that out if you can, if you haven't seen it. Sacrificing people, sacrifices, societal, censorship and pressure. Like, oh, you can't talk about that, or those books are banned, or I better not hear you singing those songs, because if you do, you'll get sent out to be sacrificed, basically, right? People following, unjust leadership, all these societal ills and pressure. They have, the mafias are having their wars going on, right? Not really the most peaceful society. They definitely have an underworld. We learned about that even in Zani's quest, right? So it's not all that it's cracked up to be, but that's the whole point. Now that we're in 2.4, right? That was the area preview that we just saw, right? Very vibrant colors all throughout. Vibrant colors, more vibrancy. Even though this place is in a cave, as you can see, the colors are very inviting. And let's see, this, like I said, this place is a little bit more on the mysterious side for sure. But then we're right back to like, oh man, I'd love to hang out in this area. This area looks awesome. This area has a little bit more intrigue to it. I'd say this is probably a little bit closer to what people were looking for. And like I said, this is some of the stuff that was shown. This happens at night, mind you. I think anybody could recognize that Penitent's End was kind of more a step in the direction of what people thought we would get. And obviously this place is, it's kind of like a domain. You do fight in it, but it's kind of, I'd say, neutral. It's kind of neutral in that regard. And then obviously this looks a tad bit scary. So next, this is the 2.4 geographic preview. Now you tell me if you see a difference between the bright, sunshiny, even the music, right? Even the music, bloom, doom, doom, right? At the end of the other one, it started to get a little bit more dismal. This one, on the other hand, has a bit of a tonal shift, doesn't it? You see? It's got the pomp and circumstance, It's very grand in nature, but it's not all that cheery and bright. Now you could argue that these screens, okay, sure, for the most part, but I think we could still agree once again, this isn't inviting. This isn't like the most super, like, yeah, the holographic nature is like cool, but the color, even the colors they've chosen, this is like bright red. Red signifies danger, right? Blue, okay, you know, like it's not like some light blue, it's not a sky blue. It's like more of like a royal blue, similar to like this right here. All right, once again, does not really invite any like cheery thoughts. It's like, you know, realistically speaking, you're out here. It really just depends on what's happening. You see people fighting, you see people training. This is not a cheery place. There we go. More to my point. Got your calcified dragon from the Blight, the Dark Tide Blight, Tidal Blight, I think it's called. Mysterious, ghoulish looking phantoms, right? Not cheery at all. Pretty spooky depending on who you are, and if you were actually here in person. Not to mention, like, if I'm being honest, I'm looking at the doors. These are giant. Like, look at the door. Most people probably are going up to like 3 or 4 squares. These are some giant creepy phantoms in this area. You know, you got the water kind of coming through. It's muggy, or not so much muggy, but it's kind of like damp. This is not inviting. This is not cheery. This is the harbor area. So, you know, you can see this in the background. The world, you know, there's stars in the sky. Go figure. Cool. This is probably one of the more similar to the other thing, but it's really just because of that. It's not like it's like close to the ground. It's pretty high up in the sky. So it doesn't necessarily set the tone for this area all the way. But it's, you know, it's still something nice to look at, right? But I wouldn't call it like a tone setter. Okay, yeah, and I think that's the last one. So, new regions, right? So we have Septimont, we have the Capitoline Hills, once again, Titan Bone Expanse, right? Mountain ranges, Mournfell Canyon. This place in particular, right? This place it looks bad, okay? Like, it looks bad. I will not hear any nonsense of somebody saying, oh yeah, this looks, you know, this is definitely too bright for my post-apocalyptic gacha game. Border Mountains, yeah, Capitoline Hills, okay, yeah, we have that. And okay, yeah, so this is what we've seen. This is what they're kind of showing us for this area. But yeah, the point being is that this is not, from a narrative perspective, this is not something that doesn't make sense. From a narrative perspective, if you were thinking about any popular JRPG, right? Like, it's very often the case that they will add these sort of concepts where you start off in like the town, the unassuming town, and then what happens? Exactly. So you basically have that happen. The Fire Nation attacks, you know, whatever. Some person comes in with some flying things that you've never seen before, like some you know, some zeppelins or whatever, and they're dropping, you know, flaming rocks on the village. But usually things start kind of peaceful, kind of quiet, and then your expectations are subverted, and the real crisis kind of happens. And I think a lot of people were expecting the game to start within the crisis, essentially. And so, yeah, we are going to be getting more dark themes, even in the future when we get to the new Federation, right? Kalkuro being a character, I believe Chisa, the character who looks like a Japanese schoolgirl, right? At least in terms of her outfit. Those motifs, right? I think she's gonna be like the character that kind of like leads us into that area, similar to kind of like Kazuha from Wuthering Waves. I mean Genshin. I believe that that's going to be the case. And that place, by the way that the story, the lore talks about that area, New Federation, it's going to be rough. There's like a super high-tech city and then a lawless zone, right? Shout out to, if anybody's ever played Cyberpunk 2077, that might sound relatively familiar to you. Just so happens we have a Cyberpunk collab. So, yeah, next year. So, point being, has Wuthering Waves changed, right? Has the post-apocalyptic, after apocalypse, has the feel, are they not delivering, right? Is it so different from what you thought it was going to be? I believe that the game is just getting started, and as we progress in the game, it will expand further and further into those concepts. But it's not something that they're just starting out with, per se. I mean, technically, if you take Jinzhou, right, it's a nation in decay. The game's story literally starts off as, like, in a war, basically, right? Like, you're in a war scenario. So, you know, I know Reena Sita might have thrown some people off. Maybe some people just skipped Jinzhou and went straight to Reena Sita. But you gotta give them time to cook. That's all. Y'all let me know what you think. Are you happy, satisfied with how 2.4 is looking from a landscape perspective? Obviously, we're gonna get into the story. What do you all think about what I said about the fact that, you know, Reguna was essentially the mask of Reena Sita in terms of, you know, the kind of carnival concept where you have on a mask, you take off the mask, the bad stuff shows behind the mask. But Reguna was kind of like the distraction, because that's really what the Threnodian was doing. It was hoping to distract the people. As Frolova said, some people have remained clear-eyed amongst the revelry, you know? The honeyed wine has dulled other people's senses. She technically said it the other way around. She said the honeyed wine has dulled their senses, but yet you've remained clear-eyed throughout this revelry. So yeah. Were you the one whose senses were dulled because of the honeyed wine that was the carnival, you know, in Reguna? Or have you remained clear-eyed amongst the revelry? Let me know in the comments. Thank you as always. Also, I just want to let you know, for everybody who got to the end of this, we're doing a giveaway. We're going to be doing a giveaway for 2.4 when Karthia drops. So we'll be on stream. I'd say the way to show that, you know, the requirements are really just to be on stream. And there's one more thing. You have to be on stream. And I am going to put something in my next lore video. It should be coming out before the patch drops. I'm going to put something in my next lore video. It's going to be like a little Easter egg. It's going to be obvious to anybody who's actually watching the video, though. And I'm going to ask that question to whoever wins. And if they can't answer the question, that means they didn't watch the video, because it's going to be very obvious. But if you did watch the video, then, and like I said, the video's not going to have spoilers in it. It's going to be about what happened in 2.2. So if you watch the video, it should be coming out before the patch drops. If you watch that video, you'll have your answer. And then if you win, because this is basically my way of rewarding people who actually engage with my content. I had a giveaway before where I gave it was like $500 worth of stuff that I gave away. And a lot of those people, I don't think I saw maybe like 1% of those people actually stay. And I don't like the idea of doing these giant giveaways where I'm not actually giving anything away to people who are actually a part of my audience. So that's the reason why we're doing this. And we'll be doing this going forward, because I understand the purpose of a giveaway. It's to, you know, broaden your reach and all that stuff. There's two ways of doing growing, though. One way is to build a solid fan base that can, you know, tell other people, like, hey, check out Life. Life is doing some really good stuff over there. And then the other way is to just do that kind of super broad reach where you're just like giveaway after giveaway. Hey, you know, big flashy thing or whatever. And you don't really have you don't really create solid connections that way, in my opinion. So that's why we're doing it the way that we're going to be doing it. So I will make a post about it as well. on both YouTube channels, More Life Lessons and Life Lessons. I'll make a post about it. And yeah, and like I said, for people who see that video, there you go. So yeah, that's the plan. All right, I will see you all on the next one. Excited for 2.4. All right, peace.
Hey, you. Do the thing.